The conflict in Beit Lahia, northern Gaza, has escalated significantly as intense and relentless fighting continues between Hamas and the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF. Following a series of Israeli airstrikes targeting Hamas positions, Hamas retaliated with a barrage of rockets. These rockets targeted various areas in Israel, particularly in the northern region, where the IDF has been working to neutralize Hamas's military capabilities. Among these exchanges, the Al-Qassam Brigades, Hamas's armed wing, claimed to have inflicted casualties on Israeli forces, claiming the deaths and injuries of several soldiers during direct confrontations with Israeli tactical units. This battle has become a critical point in the ongoing conflict, as both sides remain firmly entrenched in their positions. Hamas's use of its military infrastructure, including underground tunnels, and its ability to launch rockets deep into Israeli territory, has led to a significant military response from the IDF, who is focused on dismantling the group's offensive capabilities. Israel's military operations aim to prevent further attacks, but each Israeli strike on Gaza provokes Hamas to launch further rocket attacks in retaliation, creating a continuous cycle of escalation. As both sides continue their hostilities, the impact on the civilian population in Gaza has been devastating. Beit Lahia, in particular, has seen widespread destruction, with homes and infrastructure severely damaged by the ongoing airstrikes and rocket fire. Many civilians are forced to flee their homes, seeking shelter wherever they can find it. Medical facilities, already strained from previous conflicts, are now overwhelmed by the influx of casualties. The humanitarian situation has reached a critical point, with shortages of essential goods such as food, water, and medical supplies. Aid organizations are struggling to deliver assistance due to the continued blockades and the risks posed by the fighting. The situation is further compounded by the broader geopolitical context. The Gaza Strip, governed by Hamas since 2007, has long been a point of contention in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Both Israel and Hamas have entrenched positions, and efforts at ceasefire or negotiation have repeatedly failed. Israel maintains its stance that it must protect its borders from rocket attacks and that Hamas must be disarmed to ensure security. Meanwhile, Hamas continues to position itself as the defender of Palestinian rights, rejecting Israeli occupation and its control over Palestinian territories. The international community has repeatedly called for restraint, urging both sides to cease fire and engage in dialogue to de-escalate the situation. However, these calls have largely fallen on deaf ears, as both Hamas and Israel remain resolute in their objectives. The lack of progress in diplomatic efforts, coupled with the deepening violence, suggests that the path to peace remains elusive. The conflict's humanitarian impact is further exacerbated by the political and social instability in the region. The Palestinian territories, especially Gaza, face crippling economic conditions, with high unemployment, poverty, and limited access to basic services. The economic blockade imposed by Israel, and the blockade's extension by Egypt, has left Gaza's infrastructure in ruins, contributing to the hardships faced by civilians. The political leadership in Gaza, under Hamas, remains largely isolated from the international community, further complicating efforts to bring peace to the region. Amid the violence, there is a growing sense of despair among the population, both in Gaza and in Israel. The cycle of violence seems unending, with each act of aggression feeding into the next. Civilians, who are most affected by the ongoing military operations, bear the brunt of the destruction and suffering. International organizations and governments have called for a renewal of peace talks and a long-term solution, but the lack of trust between the two sides makes it difficult to see a way forward. As the fighting continues, the people of Beit Lahia and the broader Gaza Strip are caught in the middle of a larger geopolitical struggle, one that shows little sign of resolution. While there are occasional moments of diplomacy or ceasefire, these efforts are often undermined by acts of violence and the inability to address the root causes of the conflict. The future of Gaza and its people remains uncertain as the cycle of retaliation between Hamas and Israel persists, threatening to engulf the entire region in further violence and instability.